It's time for Ball Talk with Sanford and Johnny. From what's happening on the blue at Boise State to the Mountain West and beyond. The biggest storylines, the best guests, and most outlandish opinions from two dudes who eat, sleep, and breathe college football. Today's broadcast is coming from the Cutwater Spirits Canned Cocktail Studios. Check out one of their more than 30 flavors of pre-mixed premium cocktails at your local gas station or grocery store. Cutwater Canned Cocktails is perfect for your next game day tailgate party. Ball Talk with Sanford and Johnny, featuring former Boise State quarterback and longtime coach Mike Sanford, and KTIK 95.3 FM The Ticket's Johnny Mallory on Bronco Nation News.
Oh, this is going to be historic. Appreciate you guys with us tonight. It is season 1. Episode 3 of Ball Talk. I'm John Mallory, Johnny Ballgame with me, the longtime coach, former quarterback on the blue, Mike Sanford. And coach, episode 3, here we are. We have some games to talk about week 0, but more importantly, it is a Bronco game week, college football games all over the Labor Day schedule. I love how college football grabbed Labor Day and said, "You're mine now, sucker. No more camping trips. Let's make this a football weekend." We got a lot to talk about today, Coach, and thanks again for hanging out. It's going to be a blast, man. What's going on?
Tell you what, man, I don't know if you can see these guys right here, but I got some goose pimples, as they say in the South, for this weekend. It's football palooza. It's my first Saturday to be a Boise State fan in almost 2 decades. You can see I made my trip to the Blue and Orange store online and got checked out. So usually it's Minor League Monday on this show. Today, it's Bronco Blue all day. So I can't wait for this week.
Show me your coat that is sitting on your chair right now. When you got up during our pre-show meeting, I saw it on the back. Is that like a Letterman's jacket? Did you have that as a player?
That's the old Boise State letter jacket. And as the show goes on, Johnny, my wife just happened to do some basement cleaning, went through some old memorabilia, had nothing to do with the show, and I found some real gems. In fact, if you get to our picks section at the end of this, you might see what you're playing for the rest of the year, Johnny, because I found some good uni swag from back in the day.
I love it.
We got options too.
We're gonna get to our pick six. It's gonna be terrific. We'll be joined. Our first guest comes to the program. He's a 2-time all-conference selection, played in the NFL. He was glorious on the blue. He helped you win a Fiesta Bowl in 2014. Talk a little bit. We'll bring him on in about 10 minutes or so. Your boy, Marcus Henry, Coach.
Well, first off, it's your old neighbor. Grew up in the same neighborhood in Bellevue, Washington. A famous alum of Bellevue High School, a Wolverine. One of the dominant programs in all the West Coast over the last 20, 30 years.
Absolutely.
And, that Marcus was the kind of player, so cerebral, so intelligent, made so many things right. To be honest, I probably called some bad run plays into some bad looks, and he just got the boys pointed in the right direction with regards to their linebacker points. Just a true intellect of the game. Had a chance to play in the National Football League, I think on and off for about 6 years. And, I'd say Marcus is just one of my all-time favorite players, and a guy that I actually reached out to today about getting on the show, and he's in Hawaii. He's at his sister's wedding, and he's willing to jump on this show with us.
He owes you one.
No, I owe him a lot more. But he is that guy. He was that same guy as a player. Whatever you ask of him, he's going to give it to you. And he's coming back tonight to talk about Boise State's triumphant return to Montlake, Washington, right in his neighborhood.
Yeah, and he was in that game, of course, the 2013 game, where Boise State went up there. And it's important today, too, because we will talk about the offensive line. You saw Coach Sanford, the Andy Avalos presser earlier today. Spencer Danielson and Bush Hamden also spoke regarding the offensive line. So what is it like to play center specifically in that stadium on a week 1 opportunity? We will have Marcus Henry on, and that'll be terrific. Also, Coach, I want to go just game one, week 1. especially throw in the fact that you're on the road, throw in the fact that you have a top 10 opponent. And I wanted you to talk to our viewers tonight, and let's just chat about, what's going through the heads of these coaches and these players. I mean, the stress level must be at an all-time high getting ready for an opportunity like this. I mean, Boise State can be the king of the football world again after a good 3-hour performance. And if they go up there and beat the Huskies, as you know, you've been a part of a lot of those moments. So I want to draw on your experiences there as well. And for the first time in show history, Coach, you're going to put the tape on of Michael Penix Jr. You coached against him last year as the head coach of the Colorado Buffaloes. So you've seen his shredding up close and personal. And you're going to break down some tape with us with Penix?
I am. And I'll tell you this, Johnny, I'm looking forward to watching him on Saturday and not coaching against him on Saturday, because this dude is surgical. Ball placement, accuracy, arm talent, you name it. I think everybody looks at Michael Penix Jr. And I think personally, back to the 2020 season when IU upsets Penn State, Michael Penix Jr. puts on an incredible performance with his legs. You fast forward a couple years, surgery later on his lower half and his knee. Michael Penix Jr. has evolved his game to be one of the elite passers of the football, and I can't wait to break him down. However, we're not going up to Montlake, Washington to hero worship Michael Penix Jr. We're going up there to win a football game. And so we're going to spend this time in this show talking about matchups, talking about things that we see. And I think there was a lot of insight today at the coordinators' press conferences. And I had a chance to watch those myself. It was fun to see my guy, Bush Hamden. But I'm going to tell you, Johnny, I got a one-way bromance going with the defensive coordinator, our guy Spencer Danielson. This guy lights up the screen. I think he's a great communicator, brings incredible passion, brings incredible positivity, and you can just see he's the kind of guy that A, players want to play for, and B, he would be phenomenal sitting in a living room as a recruiting defensive coordinator. So I was super impressed with watching Spencer in his press conference, and communication is such a big piece of this coaching puzzle.
It totally is, man, especially with recruiting, like you mentioned, too. And I would imagine you've been around a lot of defensive coordinators. Lance Anderson comes to mind, the Stanford years, but so many others. And for you to say that, I think, about Spencer Danielson, if he is going to watch this at any point or this gets back to him, I'm sure that's going to be a terrific compliment for Coach D. Also, mailbag segment. You guys want to get questions in for Coach Sanford regarding Washington, Boise State? Get them in, and we're going to do a mailbag segment at the end of the show, and hopefully Coach will be willing to answer some of those. Let's start right off, Coach. I don't want to dive into week 0 because let's be honest, man, we have better stuff to talk to, I think, tonight, but I do want to get your take. Let's just stick our toes in the water for week 0 a little bit. Mike Sanford, your ultimate takeaway. First off, you've been a fan. You were a fan for the first time sitting on your couch. We were texting each other all day. It was terrific. What was your takeaways from week 0?
Well, first of all, I didn't have an anxiety attack like I was missing work, which was, I think, the first positive. I've been, working on Saturdays in week 0 for the last 18 years. And then as a player, it was our scrimmage that led into the first big game. So it was good. My wife was able to observe me in a calm, serene state, which was a positive. So I took that away, Johnny. But I think just from a football perspective, it starts with that first game, Notre Dame, Navy in Dublin, Ireland at Avia Stadium. And I'll tell you this, the big takeaway, obviously everybody's talking about Sam Hartman. And I think he is fantastic. He was surgical, never really played under duress, played on schedule, didn't have to really make a ton of extended plays with his legs. However, which really stood out to me is since 2015, this very helmet right here was worn in 2015. The offensive line that we had when I was coaching there, from left tackle over, was Ronnie Stanley. We had Mike McGlinchey at right tackle. Left guard, we had Quentin Nelson. Center, we had Nick Martin. And I'll say that since 2015, this is the best and most dominant offensive line that I've seen, not only at Notre Dame, but I think in college football. I've never, in a Division I FBS game, I've never seen an offensive line move a defensive line and pressures and blitzes with the consistency that Notre Dame did in their opener. Now, on the flip side of that, Johnny, What I saw later in the evening and got my Pac-12 network greased up, found, different ways to be able to get, took my rabbit ears a certain way and put some tinfoil on so I could get Pac-12 network to watch. San Jose State played a very, very admirable opening game. But one my takeaway is just like Notre Dame's offensive line dominance, my goodness, the skill players on the offense side of the ball for the USC Trojans, mind-blowing. Like as a connoisseur of make and miss, blow it off the top type of players, I mean, this Zachariah Branch, I mean, what did he do to you, Johnny, when you watched him take that kickoff to the house? I mean, what did that remind you of? Did it bring any old visions back of another player that played in the Coliseum?
Yeah, and everybody's saying this, and rightfully so. I remember the very first time, it would have been 2003, where I saw Reggie Bush play college football. And I didn't, back then, YouTube, there wasn't Huddle. I didn't see his high school highlight tape until he became a badass at SC, right? This Zachariah Branch kid, I saw him, I was like, dude, they got Reggie Bush back. Like, oh my God, that guy, he makes, and I don't use this loosely, he makes guys look stupid, almost like Barry Sanders used to do. And again, I never throw Barry's name around. Barry, we still haven't seen the likes of him since he left the NFL. There's no one I can compare to him. On a collegiate level, that Branch kid, I mean, he makes people look silly. To think he's a true freshman, Bishop Gorman, I think your dad probably coached against him in high school. He's probably still keeping him up in the middle of the night. I know your boy Alex Grinch has a lot of work to do at USC to get that defense right. If they don't, well, they're going to lose 2 or 3 games, probably like they did last year too. But that offense, you might see USC show up in ball games, pick 6 tonight, Coach Sanford. I was really impressed with USC and that offense. Holy shnikes, man. Wow.
And what I would say is the national narrative right now is about USC's defense, and they can't stop anybody. And I would disagree. I think that, they backdoor covered San Jose State, which kind of hurt the standings, Johnny, if you know what I'm talking about in the pick 6. It was kind of a garbage time touchdown. Wasn't happy about it. But one thing I will say is that you in this Mountain West region, what Chevin Cordero is, and what a playmaker he is. He'll be one of the, top half quarterbacks that USC will see this season. And not to say that he's going to be in the top 3, because we all know what the Pac-12 has returning at the quarterback position, and it is absolutely spectacular. My question for you on that note, with regards to the Notre Dame model of the 2023 season, dominant line play, good defensive front. I mean, I'm talking reestablish the line of scrimmage on every snap on an offensive snap versus USC's wow factor. The game has changed a lot, Johnny, in the last 10 years since you've been covering Boise State. You've covered Boise State. And as we go into this 23 season at Boise State, what do you see in terms of what gives you the best chances in the 2023 climate of college football, a dominant offensive line and dominant trenches, or wow skill players?
Gosh, I mean, the old school guy in me is going to say, let's build this from the inside out, right? But there is something special about recruiting the kid that can make guys miss. Like, I love this statistic. Andy Reid and the Chiefs led the NFL last year in yards after the catch. Yes, Mahomes might be the greatest quarterback I've ever seen, but also for Andy Reid to be able to scheme the Chiefs offensive players where they can get the ball in space and make guys miss, to me, that's an element I've seen go to another level in football, Coach, over the last 10 years, especially in college. And I'll throw you in this pot. You freaking whiz kid play callers and schemers. You guys do such a good job of finding ways. And my boy Jason Eck does this up in Moscow. Just the best players on our team, those are the guys who are going to touch the football. Okay, no more 3 yards in a cloud of dust. We want the ball in the best hands of our players, and that's what we're going to do. That's what I've seen a lot in the last 10 years, Coach, change. And I will say this in the last 10 years, and you can tell me this as a recruiter. It's like the star players now, they're not playing running back, coach. They're playing wide receiver, and they're playing in 7-on-7 leagues. They're catching about 800 passes a year. Like they're 7-on-7 leagues. They're in all these camps. They're just playing so much more football than 10, 15 years ago. So yes, don't get me wrong. You're never going to go very far without great inside play. But what we're seeing now with this offense, these skill positions, like again, put the USC tape on. Viewers, watch what Lincoln Riley does in a game. It's almost impossible to stop those guys, coach. That's kind of my takeaway. Is that ridiculous?
Yeah, I don't think so. I think the game has shifted. It really has. The NFL game has shifted to I think you need to have a solid offensive line, like a solid offensive line that you feel like you can call what you need to in the run game. You can call protections and know that you're going to have ample time to get the football off. That's the bottom line. But as the game's evolved, I think as a play caller, having been in situations where I had dynamic playmakers, Shane Williams-Rhodes in 2014, a combination of Jay Ajayi and Jeremy McNichols coming out of the backfield, that gives you so much excitement for creativity. And a lot of times the creative skill players are what give an offensive coordinator the freedom and flexibility to be creative. But you can't do it if you can't block the guys up front. That's the bottom line. And so I do think it's a balance, but I'd say the shift is kind of moving towards more the USC model and what they've built. And I think USC's defense is going to get a lot better as the season goes on and make them a contender in the end, because I think that they will be able to outscore just about anybody in the country. And Johnny, how do you see them, USC, matching up with the likes of the SEC greats going into 23, Georgia and Alabama?
Probably they're not there yet, honestly, because I think, those schools you're mentioning, they recruit 325-pound kids out of high school now, coach. When the hell did this happen? You guys used to have to put weight on kids. Now it's like they have to take weight off of kids at that level. It's crazy to see how they come in your time at Notre Dame. Obviously, you mentioned that offensive line. Seriously, 4 out of 5 of those guys were early draft picks in the NFL.
Still playing, still starting.
God, man. Yep. Yeah, I mean, it's brilliant. Speaking of offensive linemen, you told me before the show that this guy, our guest, will bring him on, is one of your all-time favorites. He was a 2-time first-team All-Mountain West center. He's a Fiesta Bowl champion like yourself in 2014. He played for 5 different NFL teams over his career. He's in Hawaii right now celebrating his sister's wedding. So I know he has a massive favor somewhere he owes you, coach. But Bronco Nation, welcome back Marcus Henry to Ball Talk right now. Marcus, appreciate the time today. God, what is it, like 5 o'clock or something in Hawaii? This is awesome, man. Welcome to the show.
Yeah, appreciate you having me. I'm excited to be here and getting to talk to Coach Sanford and you again.
I'll tell you what, man, it's so good to see your face. It's been a while. And I think you and I are going the opposite direction. Since 2014, you've gotten a lot better looking, and I've kind of gone the other direction. You can see I'm trying to hide this face with this big old beard up here in the mountains of Colorado. But, man, it's so good to see you.
Envious. This is the first year I don't have my camp beard.
Oh, man. Yeah, you can still grow it. I'm not really in a camp myself, and I got a good camp beard going. Marcus, Bellevue High School, Wolverine. What I would say that I've had the privilege of coaching on the staff. I wasn't the offensive line coach, but being on the staff of 2 of the greatest offensive linemen that I've ever coached. That happen to be both Bellevue High Wolverines from Bellevue, Washington. And that's you and David DeCastro I was at Stanford.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
Yeah. So obviously, Marcus, you grew up right in the shadow of Husky Stadium in Montlake. You're literally across Lake Washington from UW. As a kid growing up, were you a Washington fan? What did the University of Washington mean to you as a kid? And you don't have to give a politically correct answer. This is a safe zone. So would love to hear your thoughts on growing up in Husky land.
Shoot, honestly, I grew up most of the time on the West Coast, and I was just a fan of the Pac-12. It was my dream to play there. Literally just grew up right across the bridge from Husky Stadium, and yeah, it would have been cool to play there. But I was in the end, I was so happy to come to Boise State and made lifelong connections with people. Got coached by unbelievable minds like Coach Sanford, and it was a real privilege to be a part of the Boise State program.
You know what, Marcus? I love hearing you got a little Hawaiian accent going, man. You caught the island fever. You're sounding good, my man. Hey, so 2013, right? Your red shirt sophomore year.
That's right.
first time as a full-time starter.
Yep.
At the center position. Opening game, Boise State is ranked number 19 in the country, and you go back home to visit the Huskies in Husky Stadium. 70,963, 71,000, and probably an additional 350 boats out there in Lake Washington. Yeah. Tell me what that experience was like. A, returning home, and B, as a center, starting your first game, crowd noise, cadence. Go through that process as we get ready to break in a new center at Boise State in this opening game.
Shoot, just to set the stage a little bit more, the game before that, we played the Mako Bowl against UW, and we beat them. And then that was the first game back at the remodeled Husky Stadium. So it was the retake Montlake, and that atmosphere was electric. The fans came out in full. I think capacity of the stadium, 70,000. Every single seat was packed, and it was so much fun. I mean, you can't ask for any better games or matchups than that. Like an immediate rematch to start the season. It was so much fun. Unfortunately, the outcome wasn't as much as we wanted, but growing up in the shadow of UW, it was always my dream to just play there and have success. And that was my first start ever. And at the time I was actually starting guard. Luckily,
okay.
Matt Paradise was still there playing center, making
nice.
calls, but
he was horrible.
That was a good team. I was going against Danny Shelton most of the game, and man, he's still playing. He's amazing. So it was fun. It was a lot of pressure, but man, you live for those type of games.
Marcus,
yeah, let me jump in here real quick.
Go ahead, Johnny.
Yeah.
Because the Garrett Curran, he's the starting center now at Boise State. He's been here so long, you might have hosted him on his recruiting trip, man. He's played guard his whole career. He's never started at center. He's never taken a snap in a game. And I don't believe Boise State has one offensive lineman on its roster who has snapped a football in a game. Now, they've done it in practice, and Andy said at his presser today, Curran's going to start at center. He's never played the position before because other players are injured or whatnot or out. We still don't know what's going on with the center we thought was going to be the starter. What advice will you give? How difficult will it be for a guy who, maybe he started 4 years at guard, but now he's starting center in that stadium that you just described? He's done it in practice, but never in a game. Is there a big difference there? Just your thoughts on Boise State on Saturday. They're breaking in a new center.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely tough. I mean, there's going to be a lot going on, and when you got live bullets flying around, it's a little bit more intense. But I mean, he's played in games before. He's played in big games, so he knows the pressure. He knows the offense. And I'm going to tell what I tell all young guys: your confidence comes from your preparations. And we'll probably talk about it later, but Scott Huff was a big proponent of that. He's over at UW now, but that was always something that hit home for me, that if I would prepared the right way, I could play with confidence every single snap, and knowing that we could play well as a team. I got my teammates back, and I know everyone on that line had my back too.
Marcus, Scooter, what I call Scooter, is a former teammate of his at Boise State. And
you guys played together. I forget. Yeah. I love it.
He may or may not have hosted a few of the football team gatherings, we'll call them, at the offensive line house. But Coach Huff, right? I had 1 year to coach with Coach Huff, and I've been doing this for 18 years. I've been around some unbelievable offensive line minds. Harry Heestand at Notre Dame, Mike Bloomgren at Stanford. Scott Huff, for me as a play caller, was by far the least high maintenance offensive line coach that I've ever been around. For whatever reason, he was the one offensive line coach that I felt like I could call plays, and he was just going to make it work with your room. And I think you were a huge part of that, Marcus. You were one of the most cerebral offensive line players at the center position that I've been around. And I think a lot of that has to do with both you and him having a special connection, at least in the 2014 season. What can you say about Coach Huff, and what prepared you to be able to handle so many different looks, be able to do it in tempo situations where you don't have the ability to make a quick, a very definitive call? What was it about Coach Huff that allowed you to prepare the way that you were prepared and play the way that you were able to play?
So I think first and foremost, Coach Huff had always really invested in his players. So I came from playing guard. He moved me to center, and that's a position close near to near and dear to his heart because that's where he played. But he really took the time and invested in us and how we learned. And he has an unbelievable football mind as well. And the best thing he does is he's able to take really complicated concepts and, for lack of a better word, dumb them down so that everyone can understand. And the biggest thing, and that what you have to do in big games, like going to UW, big game, a lot of crowd noise, is everyone's got to be on the same page. Communication's got to be high. Hand signals has to be good for the back. Everything's got to go right into communication standpoint. Because if everyone's wrong together, you could be right. And that's how you move forward. And that's what gives you confidence as a play caller to know that we're going to make the adjustments to make your calls right.
Marcus, you've had a 6-year run in the National Football League. Been around some really good offensive minds, the Saints, yep. the Cowboys, Seattle, 2 different occasions, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, that's right.
And did I say the Arizona Cardinals as well? What are you up to now? And this coming Saturday, will you be in Montlake to watch the Broncos take on the Huskies?
I would pretty much give anything I had to be able to watch it live, but unfortunately, my sister's been planning her wedding for 2 years, and it happened to fall on that Saturday that I was really looking forward to. But
what time's kickoff for the wedding? That's the most important question.
I got to check, but just know I'm gonna be streaming it on my phone the entire time.
Okay, so we're looking at a 9:30 a.m. kickoff in Hawaii. It's 3 hours from Pacific.
Good. You'll be able to watch it.
Yeah, we're good. I'll be just fine. We'll be getting ready. They'll be getting ready. I'll be watching the game.
Awesome, man. Well, hey, I know both you and I will be donning our blue and orange. There's no doubt about that. Both you and I grew up Pac-12 people, but we were transformed, and we bleed blue, and we're all the way orange and blue all the way through. And Marcus, it's so good to have you. I just want to tell you from my heart, you're the kind of person that made my coaching journey so special. And the relationship with guys like you and that offensive line, I think about Yaku and Hampton and just all these guys, man, so fun to be around. And I just want to just wish you the best going forward and know that you're always loved here in Bronco Nation, and anything you ever need, I'm here for you, bud.
I appreciate that, Coach. That means a lot. And you were one of my favorite coaches I've ever been around as well. One of my favorite offensive coordinators, and yeah, always felt good with you calling the plays, but I appreciate that.
Well, have fun at that wedding.
Hey, you got a good Sanford story before we get you out of here, Marcus Henry? I mean, it was the 1 year he was an OC. You guys obviously won a Fiesta Bowl. It's probably one of the great moments of your career. He's already said it's one of the great moments of his career. You guys shared it. Give Bronco Nation maybe a funny or a cool or an inspiring story about Mike Sanford.
The biggest thing that I always think when I think about Coach Sanford is the amount of energy that he would bring every single day, practice, game, didn't matter. He was, as soon as we broke the whole team, he'd be sprinting over to where the quarterback's going, getting everyone ready to go for practice, calling what you called Grant Hendrick Niner.
Yeah. Still does.
Niner.
Was great.
And then we can't forget my favorite, Ryan Finley was not Finley. He was Skinley. He was so skinny.
Never forget that.
Hey, real quick before you go, I'm not going to let myself off the hook. Do you remember? And I'll give you 3 words to see if you remember this story. Think walkthrough, day before an ice cold game. I don't even remember who. I think it was San Diego State. Huge game on the blue. Do you remember the 3 words? Take it off, Sanford. Take it off. Do you remember that?
Vaguely. You might have to refresh me if it's
okay. So these knuckleheads, and obviously Marcus has hit a few people since 2014. Yeah. These knuckleheads, we're at a walkthrough getting ready for a massive game against Rocky Long, San Diego State, and the best defense in the history of football. And it's about negative 18 degrees, right? In this walkthrough.
Oh, yeah. I was there. It was freezing.
And all of a sudden, the offensive line, when we're getting ready to take our first play of our scripted walkthrough, they start chanting, "Take it off, Sanford, take it off." So ultimately, what I ended up having to do is I had to pop the top, take off my shirt, and coach the walkthrough shirtless in negative whatever. We'll call it negative 19 because it was a wind chill. And then Drink actually joined me. So Drink and I, because he was the next one, take it off, Drinkwitz, take it off. The 2 of us coach shirtless. And then the worst part is ESPN's camera crew snuck video of it and showed it on the broadcast the next day. So, yeah, Marcus, you and your offensive line cronies, I still actually have hypothermia remnants in my kind of man boob region. because of you
Dad
guys.
bod.
So.
And we backed it up because we did our warm-ups without our shirts on that.
You did.
That
You called us out, and I'll never ask you to do something that we wouldn't do ourselves.
Exactly.
So, Marcus, it's so great to have you on, and we'll be both tuning in on Saturday, 9:30 a.m. Hawaii time, and it'll be 1:30 Mountain time to watch the Broncos take down the Huskies. You in for that?
Can't wait.
All right, buddy. Hey, great seeing you, Marcus, and we'd love to have you on later in the years. This thing continues to progress.
Hey,
Absolutely.
Marcus.
Great talking to you. Thanks for having me.
Hey, Marcus, one more quick one. Do your parents still live next door to Chris Peterson?
So he actually, I think 2 years ago, just moved down the street. So now our backyards aren't touching anymore. But for a long time there.
I remember we ran into each other. I ran into you at SeaTac Airport once.
Yeah.
Jarrell Root was there too. It was just some random encounter. It was me, you, and Root. And you were saying, dude, Chris Peterson lives next to my parents. It was a great story. But anyway, yeah, as Coach said, man, I loved watching you play on the blue. You're one of the best centers in program history. Hopefully they have a spot for you in the Bronco Athletics Hall of Fame one day. And appreciate you coming on, man. Hell of a career, Marcus.
Thank you. Johnny, Mike, it's always good to talk to you guys. Hope you have a good one.
Hey, appreciate it, Marcus. Enjoy Hawaii.
Yep. Gosh, I wish I was in Hawaii now, Coach. I want to ask you something before we transition into your Michael Penix Jr. breakdown, and it's going to be sensational. I want a coach's perspective. You know, you heard the press conference today. Boise State is starting Garrett Curran at center. It was supposed to be at guard. They're having to make shift. And Andy said he's played a lot of center in practice. I don't know what the difference in practice is to Husky Stadium. You're an offensive coach, been a damn good one for a long time. How nervous would you be if you were looking at Boise State's current situation at the offensive line?
Well, I think it'd be one of those states where Anne-Marie, my wife, would look at me and say, hey, you okay? Because I'd get awfully quiet. And as you can tell, Johnny, I'm not quiet too often. That's unnerving. It is. No matter what, even if you have a returning center, you're thinking about that first snap. You're thinking about the first third down with Husky Stadium hitting decibel levels that might rival your Seahawks. I mean, this is a point of concern for this ball game is just to be able to get the CQ exchange, center quarterback exchange consistently from start to finish, to make sure that the communication is solid. You know, obviously you see in environments like Husky Stadium. You know, I saw today in the press conference with Bush Hamden, you know, about the decision to start in verbal cadence to start that game out. I promise you very quickly they'll be going to either the clap cadence, which also gives me anxiety because
everybody does that now.
Yeah, it's still scary in really, really loud environments. Like I've had offensive linemen come to the sideline and say, I didn't hear it. I can't hear it. I mean, the thought is everybody's yelling, right? So they're using their voice. And so it's a different octave when you go, that's the premise of it. Well, I guess people also yell and clap, you know, from the crowd. So I think that there's some stuff about that that's unnerving. What I think is the only fail-proof way to do this from a communication standpoint is to go, you know, center looking between his legs or the guard adjacent to the center looking through his legs, giving a quick tap. And if the center's looking between his legs, you better have a guard that can make all the calls for the center in terms of identifying who we're working to in the offensive line.
Wow. So that'll happen sometimes if the center has enough crap on his plate. You'll have the guard do the verbal stuff that most centers will do. And by the way, Chris Peterson with Jake Browning was the very first quarterback I saw that had the clap cadence. And now it's like everybody does it. I don't know where it came from. Wanted to throw that on there too. But ultimately, if you're going into this game and you don't have, and you're breaking in a new center type thing, even though he's an experienced player, that's something you're going to keep your eye on, Coach, the CQ exchange.
Yeah. I mean, I think at the end of the day, it's what starts the play, you know, and if you can't get consistent snaps, obviously you don't have any ability to time up your motion run game, your motion pass game, third downs. If the quarterback's worried about where the snap's going to be located, his eyes aren't going to be in the right spots to be able to identify coverage and find matchups. It plays a factor, no question. However, it certainly would make me, and even as a Boise State fan now, it does make me sleep better knowing that he's started big games and that he's played as a guard, because it won't be the enormity of the moment as a first-time starter or playing for the first time in big games. It'll be more about just the acclimation to snapping the football. And clearly they've been working on snapping the football over the course of the last, through these summer OTAs and, player run practices and dating back to spring ball. Every coach in America has a contingency plan for if our starting center goes down. So this won't be a complete shock relative to him having a chance to snap the football.
Quick mention, some of our sponsors. First out, shout out Taco Bell. I've been going there since I was a kid. I love it. Think outside the bun. Taco Bell, they've been supporting Bronco Nation News for a while now. A lot of big things coming. Visit TacoBellWorks.com. They support student athletes like no one in their profession. Appreciate them. And let's give a shout out to Lithia Ford. Coach, you got to see the rig BJ Rains is rolling in right now. Pick that sucker up at Lithia. They also give endorsements, NIL deals to Talon Green and Riley Smith, just to name a few. Lithia Ford. If you're going to buy a vehicle, you're going to buy a vehicle at Lithia Ford. All right, Coach. Before we get into the Penix breakdown, just one more quick one. I love this show, dude, and hopefully our listeners get this too. Like, just the wealth of knowledge and entertainment. I can sit here and ask you questions all day, and I will let the viewers know. BJ too. We're on this group chat. Me, BJ, and Coach Sanford. And Saturday, we probably each texted each other 100 times. Just having that group chat, and you're breaking down stuff. It was terrific, and I got all these questions, but honest to God, you've done both. You've opened up a season against a ranked team on the road as a coach. You've opened up a season hosting Lollygag Tech. What do you prefer, the easy peasy 1-0, or do you want to challenge your guys right off the bat?
I want to challenge the guys right off the bat. I will say, just selfishly as a coach, I love opening at home. I think that there is, a tremendous benefit of being in your normal routine. And as we talked about, I believe it was episode 2, you're going to do everything as a coach to prepare, to acclimate to playing on the road. And, whether it means, doing your meetings up in, a different environment or traveling somewhere to play your last scrimmage. But I do like the comfort of playing at home, but I do want to be challenged out the gates. My second season at Western Kentucky as the head coach, we opened up in Camp Randall, jump around. And honestly, I really liked our team. I liked the way we competed. But in that game, we lost our starting quarterback essentially for the season. And really that was it. We had 2 redshirt freshmen and a true freshman behind him. So those are always the fears that you have about opening up against, a very physically daunting challenge in your opening game. And that's something that I had to deal with. And we lost a really good player in the opening game of the season.
Is that Mike White?
No, it was the next year. It was a kid named Drew Eckel. And he was a tremendous runner. He was a good, could take off and run, could make throws. And we really had to shift what we did offensively the rest of the season in my second year there. But, you just still will never forget those memories. I still have a picture of myself in between series, mini scripting my next series, calling plays from the sideline at Camp Randall. My wife took a picture on the sideline of me by myself with the backdrop of 78,000 drunken Wisconsinites. And it's a memory I'll never forget, even if it might be some pain associated with it. But I think that going in these types of environments, football is a game. We all want to win, but it is also a game where you look back 10, 15, 25 years. And I think about the game when we opened up at South Carolina when I was at Boise State.
You were on that team, huh? Yeah.
Lou Holtz is the head coach, and Kalimba Edwards playing defensive end. And I still vividly remember those types of games. And frankly, I don't remember a whole lot of the games where we opened up against East Tennessee State. I don't. So these types of memories are invaluable, and you go obviously to play great football. And that's what these players have to do. They have to have the mindset of, we're going to play a game that we've been practicing, prepping for, and have played successfully with the majority of this team, having so many returners, obviously a few newcomers sprinkled in. But I'd say to these players, just cut it loose, enjoy every snap, take it one snap at a time. Don't look at the scoreboard, because I think that we're going to match up very well up in Seattle.
Okay, this next segment, this is the first, again, season 1, episode 3 of Ball Talkin'. Coach, we're going to put this Penix Jr. reel on, and I want you to talk to us almost like you're talking in front of your team, or you're talking in front of your dad or other smart football people, where you're really explaining this. And I think if we do this well, everybody watching this now, everybody who's going to watch this later, they will now view this game differently, I believe, after they see you break it down. You're basically going to give us kind of a preview, right, of what he does well and what Boise State fans are going to say, oh, God, he just did that. I saw Sanford talking about that. So describe what we're going to do, and, Coach, let her rip.
Yeah, so obviously Michael Penix Jr., this player transferred from Indiana, had tremendous success in the COVID year 2020. I'm looking forward to, I picked some clips out, Johnny, that I wanted to show to Bronco Nation, to college football fans that are tuning in or will tune into this show later, just to show his entire skill set. And so with that, let's roll the tape, man. All right, so you can see here just his ability to throw off schedule outside the pocket and drop in a ball. This is a great clip. What I love, an RPO throw, okay. The quick release to be able to put the ball in the running back's gut, and then just this middle infield style of throw. Shortstop, second baseman, that's where the game has evolved, and Michael Penix is that perfect guy. But don't sleep on him, because it's not solely throwing little RPO throws. That's to a tailback. That is not an average throw. That is a back shoulder throw to a tailback. Ball caught it for him. Okay, now we see him tuck, and Michael Penix Jr. is not the player that wants to tuck and run. He's different than Taylor Green in the sense that when he attacks the line of scrimmage to run, he's looking for multiple options down the field, and seeing that ball lay over the outstretched hand of the nickelback from Michigan State. That's an elite throw on the run. Okay, we get to this next clip. Watch the ball placement. You truly cannot throw as a red zone quarterback. When you get into that high red zone, look for shots, because the combination of Rome Odunze with Michael Penix Jr. looking off the safety, holding the backside safety, and the ball is dropped into where you tuck the ball as a ball carrier. You cannot throw a ball better than that. All right, this is him as an athlete. Okay, a little RPO stretched out. This is what you're going to see from Michael Penix. You're not going to see the 80-yard runs. That's not who he is. That's not who he's wired to be. Okay, gets Oregon. Tremendous backdoor escape. Going to his right. He takes off. He gets the first down. He's a chain mover. He's a natural-born chain mover. This isn't a player that's always looking necessarily with his legs to take off and hit the home run. He just wants to consistently hit singles and continue to move the chain. Another shot here against Oregon. Watching him. Arm talent. Period. You cannot place a deep post throw better than you saw on that throw. Watching Michael Penix,
Oregon too.
Wide field, whole shot throw. Okay, so in a cover two structure, the corner is playing the flat, lets the safety play over the top. He drills that ball in absolutely perfectly. You can see this safety
in the hole, Coach. In the hole.
Okay, he gets to the back half. He's responsible for two. Corner's eaten up by the outcut, and that ball to the wide field is indefensible. Now here is in the Valero Alamo Bowl. UW's going to have a little trickeration of their own. Okay, watch the ball placement. Safety's getting to the spot. Well-defended play.
Yep.
And you can see, and that's the final clip of just the full skill set that you're going to see from Michael Penix Jr. I saw it firsthand. To be honest, I wanted him to not be as good as I had seen on film. And with my own eyes at Husky Stadium, he was fantastic.
Yeah, and shocker, I didn't see any clips there against the Buffaloes of Colorado. No, I didn't see that. You guys must have shot him down. Was there a clip in there? Did you purposely leave that out, Coach?
Well, Johnny, not only are there some sensitivity issues involved with that decision, but more importantly, they controlled the line of scrimmage in such a dominant fashion that, frankly, he didn't need to cook. Everybody says, let Russ cook right here in the Denver Broncos fan base that I live in. They didn't really need Michael Penix to cook, because Scooter and the boys up front were cooking against the Buffs that day. And they were resetting the line of scrimmage in a way that we didn't see all season long. And that's including playing against Utah. That's including playing against Oregon State with one of the most physical ground attacks maybe in college football. They were dominant up front. So the wow moments in the Colorado game, they didn't make his season highlight tape. And trust me, that highlight tape was pretty long. So if we did something right, we stayed off of Michael Penix Jr.'s highlight tape.
You know, let me go to the NFL. Jordan Love is going to start next week. You coached him. Mike White's been in the league a while. You coached him. Jashawn Kaiser was a second-round pick. You coached him. I could throw on Ian Book. You recruited him. I mean, you've coached a number of NFL quarterbacks, Mike. You got to think that, Sanford, I mean, what advice would you give him? I mean, what advice if a GM's called you and you would say, I mean, what type of pro future you think that kid has? Because you just showed some throws that, I think those are certainly NFL throws.
He's an NFL starter, in terms of if I were to give him a draft grade. I think he's the type of player that I think physically you continue to bring him along, a la Jordan Love, backing up Aaron Rodgers, taking over in the 23 season. I think that this is a young man that is going to wow general managers, coordinators, head coaches at his combine interviews. I think he has unbelievable metal between his ears in terms of his intellect, in terms of his toughness. He's already shown the resiliency, which I think has so much to do with success as a quarterback, particularly in the National Football League, to be able to go for a long period of time, deal with adversity. He's already done that. He's dealt with adversity in his career, having torn his ACL, rehabbed like an absolute champion, was able to transform his game and become one of the elite passers in all of college football.
Do you remember him in high school? I mean, you were where? I don't know. I'm trying to think where you were. Were you at Minnesota when he went to Indiana? Were you in Logan? I mean, you're at a different stop.
I was in, I believe I was at Utah State at the time. And he, if I'm not mistaken, he's a Florida kid. I could be wrong on that. I have to look back, but he was definitely out of the footprint because trust me, all of us coaches like myself that are coach, recruit the national scape of quarterbacks. When you turn on like that Penn State IU game and you see this dude surgically picking apart the Nittany Lions defense, you go back and you Google his name and make sure that you didn't miss out on him in the recruiting process. And I'd like to say I'll pat myself on the back. He was out of our geographical picture when I was at Utah State.
You were worried about Jordan Love there too. Had some good things. How Ryan Grubb? He's an offensive coordinator. I don't know how well you know him, but everybody loves Grubb right now. He's got the schemes. He'll be a head coach next year, almost guaranteed. How important is it? I'm sure it's incredibly important, but elaborate on it. Kalen DeBoer, you look at his all-time record. It's like Chris Peterson's after he left Boise State, like 92-10. It's crazy. And then what Ryan Grubb does, how good are those guys at what they do? Again, Boise State fans may not want to hear this, but I'd imagine that Grubb and DeBoer are better now than they were last year. Coaches get better too, right?
I totally believe that. And one thing that I see with the relationship between Kalen DeBoer, who's an offensive mastermind himself, I think a lot of people are putting a lot on Ryan Grubb, and rightfully so. He's done a fantastic job. I think it's a bit of a two-headed play calling monster. If I'm not mistaken, I'll watch that closely on Saturday. I didn't have a chance to watch it too intimately when I was at CU across the sideline. Too busy rallying the troops in between series. But what I have seen is I think the continuity and the relationship between Grubb and DeBoer is similar to that of what happened at Boise State from the early 2000s. They've worked together through the small schools in the Dakotas region. They come from a place, and who I give credit to for discovering this, I think this mastermind of offensive football that has been taking place in the Dakotas is Jeff Tedford, hiring him as the offensive coordinator. That's Kalen DeBoer. And then guess who his offensive line coach was? It was Ryan Grubb. That's the thing that's so unique about Ryan Grubb. This isn't just a quarterback guy like me that, wears fancy suits on game day. I mean, this guy's been in the trenches.
His dad coached at Notre Dame and USC. Yeah, all that crap, Sanford.
I mean, that's why I grow this ugly beard, because I want to look a little bit more like the Ryan Grubbs of the world, like I have some street cred in the trenches. But I have a lot of respect for the continuity, and even Ryan Grubb turning down the Alabama offensive coordinator job, as was widely reported. Yep. I think that he sees that they have something very special in Montlake. He wants to stay there, and I think that they're building a dynasty. Now, a lot of that has to do with the return of Michael Penix Jr., and it's to be seen if it's going to continue or if they take their talents elsewhere.
It's going to be crazy. Should we get to our pick six portion of this? It's ball talk with Sanford and Johnny. And last week wasn't the start I think Coach wanted to get off to, but Coach, it was your first week on this, and the whole Jackson State debacle that turned into. I'm sure you are ready and willing and able to get 3 picks going for our pick 6 right now and hopefully go 3 for 3 this week, huh?
Yeah, I do want to make a public apology, as I have done to some of our followers on Twitter that called me out for the Jacksonville State debacle. On my end, all right, I always think Google is a safe place. So when I saw JAX State on the circle lines that Mr. BJ Rains so eloquently delivered to my text inbox, I Googled Jackson State versus UTEP. And actually there was a game that showed up. Now it could have been my mind doing tricks on me. I don't know, but I apologize for that. If I had known it was Jacksonville State and Rich Rod, I would have gone Jacksonville State, but hindsight's always 50-50, as Walt Harris used to say.
I love it. BJ, welcome in. And yeah, he's apologized twice now, right, BJ? We are moving on. And I'm looking forward to Coach Sanford's pick 6 this week. Should we get this thing started, BJ?
Yeah, let's do it. I had the clip, but we won't play it. He apologized. We'll move on. We'll count it. We'll get the Sanford and Son background music going here for the segment. But first of all, we have to take a look real quick, guys, at the and by the way, if folks want to go ahead and get their comments in, their final questions in, we'll go to the mailbag here after this portion of the show. But let's look at last week. Johnny, early 2-1 lead. Mike, you got the under easily on Ohio, San Diego State, but USC 30. You were close on the USC minus 30, but I think it was 28 was the final there. And then Johnny, you went 2-1. So overall, Johnny with a 1-game lead here.
Yeah, and look, I took USC the over on that, Coach. USC San Jose. I told you the scoreboard would light up. It did. I took FIU. You know, I like Mike McIntyre. I'm a fan, and you guys followed him, or Darrell did in Boulder. I saw Mike McIntyre's coaching at FIU. Okay, I like this. They're getting 11 points. I know Hank Bachmeier had a good week, Coach, and I know a lot of people want you to dissect that, and we can get to that in mailbag. But FIU came through for me on the plus 10. Vanderbilt, dude, you got a lot to work on. Hawaii should have won that game, Coach. And yeah. I know you got backdoor covered on USC. You should have.
Yeah, man. We're talking 2-1 right now, and honestly, let's just be honest. Garbage time touchdown for San Jose State to backdoor cover. You know, we were at 35, was it?
Welcome to my world.
Yep, gets down to 28, and then all of a sudden UTEP is driving, who I had picked against Jackson State.
Yes,
and they were driving in Jacksonville State. Rich Rod led, and the drive stalls miserably with some very questionable clock management and play calling.
It's crazy. Some of you coaches too, like, you know, Rich Rod, you coached against him. You beat Rich Rodriguez in a Fiesta Bowl. It's weird how, like, you know, the places you are. He was at Michigan. Now he's at Jack State trying to get them into the FBS and whatnot. It's
and they
crazy.
Are now. And honestly running a great program. Hey, before we do get started and get our picks out there, Johnny, I wanted to give you a preview of what you're competing for. And
please,
just to be very clear here, the bet for the season on the Pick 6 segment is going to be for if Johnny holds his lead throughout the course of the season, Johnny gets his pick of Boise State Mike Sanford throwback jerseys, of which my wife found in her basement purge. So here we are.
Oh, God, I can't wait for this. You guys online, tell me which one you want me to get.
We got a Crucial.com, Humanitarian Bowl 6, Sanford number 2.
Oh, I need that.
And nothing better than the Russell Athletic right there poking out.
Russell Athletic.
Year before. Hey, redshirt year before I could get my dad's college number at USC, I was number 10 for the Boise State Broncos.
Wow.
That was Humanitarian Bowl number 5.
Okay. That's not bad.
This is a pretty salty one. Remember RD taking the boys up to Fort Worth against TCU. We've got the Plains Capital Fort Worth Bowl victory.
That's the one I want.
Over
That's
TCU.
The one.
Not so fast, my friend.
Yep.
Andy Avalos interception returned for a touchdown game. The Liberty Bowl. The whites with the big orange stripe coming down the side.
Oh, those are badass.
Another option there. And then the one that I'm going to tease you with, but not give you the option to pick. And that is the 2014 Fiesta Bowl.
Why isn't that framed, dude? What are you do? Where is that? Why isn't that framed somewhere? Some of these, dude.
The problem, Johnny, in the life of a coach is by the time we get around to frame it, it's already in a box headed to the next place.
Fired again. Or you take a better gig.
Easy, man. Hey, I've had 14 moves, and only I think 2 of them were because they didn't want me anymore. So
I love it.
Boy, will you?
You said what? 18 years of coaching, or was it longer than that? Like you're so
18
young.
18 seasons of coaching, 14 moves.
That's freaking awesome, man. I mean, people look at you and feel like you've been in the game for a few years. No, this guy's coached 18 seasons. That's a career. That's legendary. And I love doing this show for you, but I'm also excited if you ever want to get into coaching again. Anne-Marie's going to get tired of you at some point. There's only so many baked spaghettis you can ask for on a Tuesday night, Sanford.
Johnny, you better watch your mouth or you'll get on Anne-Marie's bad side. And trust me, I'll say this very clearly. You don't want to be on Anne-Marie's bad side.
I do not.
She likes having her husband around and the father of her children present for every milestone that I've missed over the last 14 years. So
good point.
There's a lot of love. By the way, Johnny, you kind of went after me a little bit and asked me about the San Diego State OC job. And I said, Johnny, you really don't want to do this show with me anymore. I mean, I thought this was pretty fun. We're in week 2 and you're already trying to fire me. What are we doing here?
We were texting for the viewers and we were talking shit about the San Diego State offense, basically. I mean, and there's a lot to talk about there. And I was like, Coach, would you ever consider the SDSU OC job if it was offered you? And I won't even say what you said in response, but
I think it was you got to be able to get that if you want it or something like that.
It was a lot of fun. But yeah, I mean, you would be lights out there in my opinion, but not that I want you to take that gig, but yeah.
People are loving the Fort Worth jersey, by the way. That's the one they're going for. Bronco Blameyer got to be the Fort Worth jersey.
The Dinwiddie year. Yep.
Dayton Robinson says the Liberty Bowl jersey needs to make a comeback. Let's see.
Yeah.
And then
there's some good ones.
Yeah. So let's get to the picks here, though. We have you're gonna each pick 3 games, and then we will pick the Boise State game as the 4th game. This week we are using the odds from Circa Sports, our sponsor. I was just down there over the weekend in Vegas, had a great time down there at Circa, and Johnny was talking to Mike about a little Bronco Nation news spouses trip down to Circa. We got to get Johnny and Cher and the whole crew and Anne-Marie and Mike and everybody down there to Circa for a weekend. We'll make it happen at some point. But Johnny, since you have the Johnny, you're 2-1. You're in first place. We'll give you the first game here.
This is a stone cold lock. This is one of my favorite spreads of the last decade.
Wow.
If you want to make an investment opportunity out of this like I am, you'll listen. I don't say this often, lay the 38. Take USC minus 38 against Nevada. I think Nevada would be about a mid-level Big Sky team this year. They had their OC leave in the middle of the night. Did you see that?
Teams coordinator too, and I'm talking during training camp. I've never heard of this.
They just said, "I can't do this. I'm done. I'm out. I can't do it."
It is a Reno 911, a legitimate Reno 911.
Yes, Coach. Great. That's got to be on their poster, their schedule poster. Reno 911. I love it. So anyway, USC isn't happy. They didn't come in the locker room and Alex Grinch say, "Hey guys, good job." No. They are going to. Oh my God, this might be 72-3, you guys. This 38 points, I probably would have given 45 on this. USC is going to murder face Nevada. This game will be completely over at halftime. Lincoln Riley, trust me, he likes it when his quarterbacks win Heismans. That helps him in his program. Lincoln Riley is going to do everything he can so Caleb Williams and Archie Griffin can hug it out and say we're the only 2 guys with 2 of these things. Nevada won't be able to score on USC the way San Jose State was. They don't have a Nick Nash wide receiver in Reno. Take USC. It'll be 65-3. You will laugh at this. That's my first pick. Sorry, I stole it from you, Coach, if I did. USC minus 38 versus Reno 911.
All right, Mike, what do we got for your first pick?
Well, first off, you don't know. Do you know who the quarterback is for the Nevada Reno Wolf Pack?
Off the top of my head.
Buffs transfer Brendan Lewis, who has a dynamic skill set as a runner. So I'm just putting it out there. Where did a lot of the yards come from? Chevin Cordero's legs. Moving on, we're going to a game that might be somewhat near and dear to my heart. We're going to Nebraska on Thursday night, opening up at Huntington Bank Stadium in Minneapolis, Minnesota, against the Gophers and the Boat Rowers of Minnesota. And I think this is going to be a classic freight train hitting freight train, physical meets physical game. I think this is going to be a low-scoring affair. New offensive coordinator for second year in a row for the University of Minnesota. I firsthand have seen Matt Rule and his impact on a college football program. The 2015 season at Notre Dame, we went to go play at Temple in the Eagles Stadium, and I saw the most physical team that we saw that entire season. That includes the likes of Clemson. That includes the likes of Michigan State. That team was physical. It's the way he does it. It's the way they practice, the way they recruit. Matt Rule is a man's man of a head coach, and they will be physical. With that being said, I think the game is going to come down to a field goal. I am going to take Nebraska and the points, which is +7.
Okay, yeah, that game, that was college game day too. Temple, Notre Dame. Remember that, Coach? Obviously, you were there. But yeah, okay. Coastal Carolina in the Rose Bowl at UCLA.
Ooh.
Grayson McCall is still there, and he might even have another year left at Coastal. He might be the best quarterback in the group of 5. I'm getting 14.5. This to me is so classic. Chip Kelly, UCLA kind of easing their way in to a Rose Bowl that's 22% filled. Nobody really cares. DTR is gone. They announced their starter. It's not the 5-star kid they recruited. It's the guy who's backed up DTR the last couple of years. I've seen Chip Kelly sleepwalk through so many of these games. Winning in the Rose Bowl is something that will go in the building at Coastal Carolina. There will be wallpaper of it, like Coach Sanford in the Blameyer holding up the Fiesta Bowl trophy. It'll be a massive opportunity for a program like Coastal. They don't have to win. Just don't get smoked. I see UCLA maybe winning, but pulling it out at the last second, what have you. Take Coastal Carolina, get the 14.5. This game's going to be closer than people think, Coach.
BJ, is that 13.5 or 14.5?
I will confirm real quick I'll look it up while you're making your second pick.
Okay.
I mean, I saw last week, it comes down to the last possession in a few of these. So I know Johnny likes to speak kind of out of both sides at times. So hey man, there's nothing wrong with a little sandbagging on your boy here.
At least Johnny knew who the team was in the game. Okay. So go ahead.
My next pick is a neutral site game. A battle of the Carolinas. North Carolina is technically playing at South Carolina, but it's going to be held at the Carolina Panthers Stadium, Bank of America Stadium in Charlotte. I love South Carolina and covering 2.5. There's a lot of hype surrounding this North Carolina football team. I am not necessarily yet on the hype train of Drake May as an elite top quarterback that's in the same conversation
really
as Caleb Williams. I haven't seen enough. I've watched him.
Yeah.
I have Mitch Trubisky vibes. Sorry. I apologize.
Yeah.
And there was hype around Mitch Trubisky that reminds me awful a lot of Drake May.
Wow.
I love Spencer Rattler and his development. I love where he's gone from being the NIL poster child at Oklahoma, gets beat out by Caleb Williams, and comes to South Carolina, grows into the role as the season goes on. Some massive upsets down the stretch for South Carolina. I like South Carolina covering 2.5 over North Carolina.
I love it. Okay. And my final one. Okay.
It is, by the way, it is 14.5. That's the correct
Thank
line.
you. 14.5 for Coastal. I know their coach left Chadwell, and I really like him, but they hired from within.
No, they did not. Tim Beck.
Where's he from?
He was at North Carolina State followed Drinkwitz as the offensive coordinator.
Oh, he did, huh? Okay. I don't think
Man,
that's
it's tough when you have a ball coach on here, man. You can't just sneak one by anymore.
You know where every coach is. I love it, and I'm shamed I didn't know that. I should have known who took over for Chadwell over there in Coastal. Here's my final one, and I don't know if this is a neutral site or not. It says Clemson versus Duke. I don't know if this is in Durham. I don't really care. This game could be played in for David Cutcliffe's backyard, and I would still take Clemson. And I don't know. They're only favored by 13. If Clemson isn't 2 teeters better than Duke, then Clemson has some serious issues it needs to work out. Look, Dabo Swinney loved being the big time. He loved being the talk of college football, and he was for about 5 years, from Deshaun Watson to Trevor Lawrence. Last couple of years didn't really quite work out with your boy DJ Sanford. They were still good, but they just weren't elite Clemson CFP good. They're going to try to get back to that. This is a cakewalk for me. Clemson beats Duke by 20 to 30 points. Easy cover. Take Clemson. Lay the 13. It's Duke. This isn't a basketball game. It's football. I like Clemson, Sanford.
BJ, where's that game being played? Do you have?
It's the Monday night Labor Day game, so it's the final. It's Monday night, and according to Circa, I think it's at Duke.
Good, yeah, great. There'll be more Clemson fans there than Dukies.
Duke backdoored, I believe, 8 or 9 wins last year. I think they came on strong
against the spread.
I wasn't against this. Mike Elko, man, former D coordinator at Notre Dame, man. He's building a juggernaut up there in Durham. I'm going for my final pick. This one also, I think, has a lot of eyes that are going to be watching this. Stanford at Hawaii. Yes. Hawaii has a very impressive, I think, a very emotionally inspired game at Vanderbilt. I think there was a lot of hype surrounding Vanderbilt being a better team going into, second, third year of Clark Lee's tenure there at Vanderbilt. Stanford with Troy Taylor. I think this is one of the better offensive minds at Sac State. Just put up insane numbers. Yeah. What I saw with Stanford is they were able in their own way to access the transfer portal to get a lot of help, particularly in their line play. And I'd take Stanford beating, I think, a little bit of an overconfident Hawaii football team in front of 8,900 in Manoa. They haven't fixed the stadium yet, have they?
That's a makeshift stadium on campus, right?
Is it under 10,000? Is it dome territory?
I mean, there should be. I mean, Stanford, you've coached at Stanford. I mean, there's a lot of people with money, smart people like Stanford football. Will they travel well to Hawaii, even with everything that's going on there, you think?
I mean, you bring 4,000 fans and you fill up half the stadium. So they'll travel great to Manoa, Hawaii, I think. Now, in terms of traveling to, maybe Little Rock, Arkansas to play Arkansas in the War Memorial Coliseum, I don't think that they would travel so well, but a place like Hawaii, you betcha. I think they'd be willing to make that trip.
Coach, in 30 seconds or less, because we're already well over the hour, but is there an advantage? Is there an advantage for the team that played already in Hawaii? Obviously, or Stanford now has a full game of their tape, and Hawaii hasn't seen Stanford play. When a team plays week 0 and the other team doesn't, who has the advantage there?
I think from a travel perspective and going from the island to the mainland, not just going to the west coast of the mainland, but going to acclimatize to a different time zone, a massively different time zone, playing in an evening game, coming back. I think that trip will have more of an impact on Hawaii's preparation than it will for Stanford just having to make one trip.
Okay, so Johnny,
mailbag.
So Johnny, you go. No, we got to get to the Boise State pick here, but Johnny has USC minus 38, Coastal Carolina plus 14.5, and Clemson minus 13. Mike has Nebraska plus 7, South Carolina plus 2.5, Stanford minus 3.5. John Mallory, Boise State is getting 15 points. We're doing the 3+1 here, so which way you leaning? Boise State getting 15 on Saturday. ABC 1:30 Mountain Time prime afternoon kickoff.
Yeah, I saw RG3 on the call as part of the broadcast team. It'll be interesting to get a Heisman Trophy winner in there. I'm going to lay the 15. I'm going to take Washington. They're going to win this game. I believe with late fourth quarter score will put them over. I'll say, something like 31-14, maybe 37-21, something along those lines. Coach, I'm going to take the Dogs. They'll be able to win this thing by 16. That doesn't make it a blowout, but I do think they will cover this spread.
This is the best team that I think Boise State will have played in maybe a decade. And
what?
That can be disputed. I really believe that the combination of the trenches, that discussion we had earlier about, the strength of Notre Dame's offensive line versus the strength of the skill positions in quarterback at USC. I think that Washington has the best of both worlds. I really do. I think that they have an incredibly athletic offensive line, a veteran-laden defensive front. This is going to be the biggest challenge that Boise State has seen in a decade. I really do believe that. And with that being said, I'm taking Boise State. And the reason I'm doing that is because of Taylon Green, the depth at receiver, the offensive line, and the size advantage that Boise State has. As the average offensive line starter going into this game, at Boise State's over 6'5", over 305, and the average Washington offensive lineman is 6'4" and 304. So we have an advantage going into this game. I love our defense in this game. I think we're going to fly around, play great football, and this is going to be the moment that the Broncos are back.
They will own the college football night if they get this, and it'll be, Boise's back. I had Brock Heward on my show today, and I asked him, Coach, how big of a letdown will it be up in Montlake with Husky fans if Boise State comes in there and wins? And he almost didn't even know how to compute it. Like, he was saying it will be one of the biggest football hangovers Husky fans have ever went through. I mean, they are thinking CFP. They're thinking Pac-12 championship in the final year of the league. You know all this stuff. Boise State has a beautiful, beautiful moment, an opportunity if they can somehow get this done. And you've been a part of so many of these, Coach. This is kind of what Boise State was founded on. Get us on the biggest possible stage against the biggest possible opponent. We're going to come there. We're going to play really well. We're going to beat you, and then we're going to move about our business. And I would love to see it. I just don't see it, Coach Sanford. BJ, should we get to the mailbag? I know we're over schedule, but we still got people watching, and I want Coach Sanford to answer some of these questions if he has a couple minutes.
Yeah, we do have a couple here. Mike, I don't know if you're familiar with a new tradition they've started at Boise State. They have the blue chaos flag that's down there in the end zone right before kickoff as the team's taking the field. They try to get the decibel level up. They're firing up the crowd, and then they raise the flag right before kickoff. They bring back a former player, a former coach. Logan Byler asking if you are going to come raise the flag now that you are a fan. I know we were talking about later in the season getting you out to Boise for a game. I think I know the right people. Any interest in raising the flag down there on the blue before kickoff if we can get it done?
Well, as of 2 weeks ago, I've been flying my Boise State blue and orange flag in my house here in Colorado. So you could say that I'm a flag aficionado. My wife makes fun of me for it. Really, any one of my teams that are playing on a given day, I have that flag up. Even my World Cup favorites and my grandfather being from Denmark. So you betcha, I love me a flag. I'll be there. If I do get the privilege and the honor of doing that, I would be. My wife and kids would tell you that I'd probably be the happiest guy on planet Earth.
The whole Sanford family right there on the camera on the screen as Sanford's firing up.
BJ, let's corner Jeremiah next time we see him and say, what are the openings?
I think if that happens, though, he needs to wear one of those retro jerseys when he does it. I think if that happens,
the Letterman's jacket for sure too.
Well, I already bought my 6-year-old. He wanted shoulder pads, so he sleeps in them, he eats in them, and so he'll be in full jersey. He'll be head to toe Bronco blue and orange.
Yeah, he's gonna love Boise State. Your kids. I mean, you'll make sure they know what teams to root for. You already do that.
I think this season will be a really big indoctrination process of making sure that they understand where their roots are. And that's in the blue and orange country.
All right. Sean wants to know, we've talked about the matchup, but what has to happen for Boise State to pull out a win against Washington, Mike?
I think we need to weather the early storm because there will be an early storm. It'll be mind-blowing, the amount of speed, athleticism, length, particularly in the defensive fronts and then on the perimeter offensively for Washington. We got to weather that storm, settle in. There will be adversity. I promise you that. We're going to watch this game in the first quarter and say the sky is falling. Twitter's going to do what it does. Fire everybody. That's what Twitter does. I will not be part of that crowd because I do not believe in the Twitter mafia. However, I think that Boise State is able to, because of their experience, because of the growth of Taylor Green, because of his athleticism. I think that Taylor Green is going to and needs to have an elite performance up in Seattle.
So with that said, if you were the OC, how would you, Coach Sanford, attack this Husky defense? What did you see when you played them last year with the weapons Boise State has? Obviously, the strong running game, the receivers. You mentioned Taylor. How would you attack this Husky defense?
I think you got to go in with a loaded weapon, man, and you got to unload that clip. You got to make sure that you call your shots. You beat them to your trick plays. You got to be aggressive from the beginning. Don't be afraid of throwing the ball down the field. They're going to be putting their corners on islands, much like Boise State will be doing at times with their quarters coverage structure. But you got to push the ball down the field early and go in there with the mindset of, hey, we're going to call this game to win this game. And that's exactly what I would do against a team that is riding very high right now.
And final, I guess, comment or question that we'll get to here. I think this is a joke, but he says, would you run the wishbone against Washington?
Don't end it on that question either. We got more. Don't even answer that.
EJ coming in with the wah.
Yeah, wah.
We appreciate all questions. No such thing as a bad question.
Yeah, that's true. Somebody wanted to know, we're not Harsin versus Sanford, who would win a game of Madden?
Wow. Well, first of all, I don't think Hars or I have played Madden in over 2 decades. So it would probably be the absolute worst game of Madden that anybody could ever watch. So it probably could go viral if we played it on Twitch for just how poorly performed the actual game is. We wouldn't know where the buttons all align because it's changed dramatically and the systems have changed. So
would you say you were a good Madden player in your time? I mean, like Kellen Moore played a lot of Madden when he was
that's why he is where he is and I'm where I am. I mean, that could have something to do with it.
All right, the real final question here, kind of a funny one. Jay Money wants to know, first offensive play of the game, the prediction, run or pass. What about if you're calling the first play, Coach Sanford? And I know maybe you can give the insight on the scripted plays you guys have, and I don't know if that changes if you're already down 7-0 or
how does that work?
What first play of the game? What are you guys thinking?
I think that for UW, I think they're going to want to test their front and how it blocks Boise State. I think they're going to run the football. I think some type of outside zone scheme to try to be able to stretch it out and puncture. That's what I see from Washington. Set up the play action, set up all the nakeds that they like to run on the backside of all the outside zone plays. For Boise State, I would say, if I'm calling the first play for Boise State, I'm doing something that gives them something to worry about formationally that they hadn't seen on tape from the year before, because then you get your defensive coordinators worried about defending that formation, and you may or may not come back to that formation. It's a page out of our playbook from the 2014 Mountain West Championship game against Fresno State. Yeah. Nick Toth, the defensive coordinator, he dang near had a hernia on the sideline, and I enjoyed watching every minute of it. I was watching with my binoculars actually after the call.
What's the best game you've ever called, Sanford, where you went home and you told Anne Marie about it? Babe, I've never called a better game.
I think the Boise State, Boise State Fiesta Bowl in 2014, that first half. The first half was absolutely incredible, going up 28-7, I believe, in that first half. And what was it? Niner started out, 15 of 15, 17 of something like that.
Daz Anderson deep, I believe that was first half, correct?
Yes, that is. Yep, it's exact. Second quarter.
Daz deep. Jay was.
Jay, we hit America in the second quarter. I didn't even wait, so I unloaded the clip before the fourth quarter. Man, I wanted to get it out there.
20-yard line too.
Yeah.
Yeah,
so that was the best call you felt. That was the best half of football you've called. And then
the second half, I think we were all slightly in the fetal position because we had such a big lead, and nobody wants to be the guy that turns it over. Nobody wants to be, the reason for the epic comeback. So the second half, not quite as much.
I'll let you guys
finish. What was Hars like on the headset? You're up top. Hars is on the sidelines being all Hars. What was it like to communicate with him? Especially in a situation like that where you guys are holding a lead, would he give you tips? Would he yell at you?
Yeah, there was a lot of communication and feedback going on throughout the course of that second half. Some positive, some not so positive.
Yeah.
And that's football, man. Every head coach that I've ever been an offensive coordinator for, when you get those leads, I think that's the hardest place to call game from a coordinator that's not the head coach, because I think you become risk adverse, and, you just don't want to be the guy that makes the call that leads to the comeback when you're up big like that.
I'll let you guys finish up, but I do want to throw a plug in for the season preview show on Wednesday. Looking forward to this. We're going to get Mike Sanford and Kent Riddle hanging out together for a half an hour to kick off the show at 7 o'clock. This is exclusively for paying subscribers of BNN. So subscribe now. You can use the promo code GameWeek, and you get a whole year subscription for $50. That's right, $50 using the promo code Game Week. When you're buying a year-long subscription, you're going to get all the articles from Mike Prater, from Jordan K, from myself, and exclusive subscriber-only shows like this Wednesday. It'll be Mike Prater, Johnny, Tusk, Jordan, everybody. We're going to do smaller segments, different things, but the first 30 minutes is going to be Kent Riddle and Mike Sanford just talking ball and shooting the breeze. It's going to be a lot of fun, so hope everybody will tune into that. Mike and Johnny, both thanks to you guys for agreeing to jump on this show as well. I'll let you guys finish up the show here, but nice work as always, Johnny, and appreciate you guys both, and we'll see you Wednesday.
Yeah, how about those pictures, Johnny? Probably outside of Jay Tust and his sweet hair and Jordan K.
Oh, God.
I mean, that picture could be like the chief of counsel for like the Elks Club. I mean, I'm just look at all.
Look at Prater's ass, dude. I love him. I love Prater. Prater's awesome.
He's the chief poobah, I think, right
there.
I
love it, man. No, you and Riddle are gonna kill that. I can't wait to watch that. You guys, $50 for the entire year at BNN. I mean, Jesus, what more does BJ have to do? It's not going to ever get lower than $50. Spend the 50. Look, I'll pay it for you for the first two people that hit me up. I'll pay your $50. I'm kidding. I won't really, Sanford, but next week is going to be terrific. We'll have this game to talk about and all this stuff. My girlfriend's texting me. I thought you were done at 9. I got to get home, man. I got to go.
Talking ball with the boys, man. Sometimes it goes over, right? That's what we do. It's been a heck of a show, man. And can't you just feel the energy, man? There's a different level of energy. Our first 2 episodes were fantastic, but I think between the two of us, man, Football Palooza, it's coming up. It starts
great
Thursday
insight,
night.
Man. Yeah, no, this is why this is going to be a great show. Episode 3, I'm already looking forward to episode 4. Appreciate you guys. Coach Sanford, you're the best. BJ, thanks for doing what you're doing, producing this show. And next Monday, 8 p.m. Until then, see you Wednesday night for the best Boise State preseason, whatever he's calling it in the history of the program. What are you calling it, BJ? Season preview? Yes. All right. We'll catch you guys later. Great stuff, Coach.
The biggest pro football contests in Vegas are back and bigger than ever with $14 million in guaranteed prizes only at Circus Sports. Enter in Nevada, play from anywhere. 2 ways to win and no rate. Play Circa Million, where you make 5 picks against the spread each week with 100% payback. Or join Circus Survivor, where you select one team each week straight up. Last the longest to win it all. $14 million in guaranteed prizes. Visit circusports.com for details.